My Nebraskon 2016 overall review. I really enjoyed it. The new location was absolutely bigger. The hallways were wider, which made it easier to walk through despite lines practically everywhere, which was also new. Last year, there were not as many lines except for big events like the cosplay contest or autographs. This year, almost every single panel had some kind of ginormous line, which is great, especially for the panelist hosts. Because I know that it would absolutely suck if you spent all that time getting ready to host a panel and then absolutely nothing and happened. Nobody showed up, not a lot of interaction. But I noticed that a lot of the panels, when we were walking around and going to our own panels choices, that a lot of them all had lots and lots of people in them, which is great, phenomenal. Overall, this con was bigger. We had almost 600 people extra than last year attend, which was nice. The convention center that we were in was made for bigger crowds, and a bigger crowd definitely showed up. The cosplay contest was filled with technical difficulties. It actually lasted almost over an hour longer than it should have. Excuse me. Which was annoying. They were supposed to open the doors and the show was supposed to start at 7. Well, they didn't open the doors until 7, so they didn't actually start the contest until almost 8 o'clock once everybody got in and situated, because the cosplay contest is the biggest attraction that Nebcon has. So of course the room gets absolutely filled to the gills of people. Being VIP, luckily I didn't really have to stand in line for a whole lot. I mean, I did for about half an hour waiting for the contest to start, but that was a personal choice. It was interesting. Since it was a new place and new stage, some people didn't show up for their parts and some people did. It was hard to sit through when about every 4 or 5 minutes they were having problems with who's up next and what skits are working and the sound isn't. So that was a little difficult to sit through. However, I do understand that it was a new convention, so it was a whole new setup to an extent. The stage was different. The technology, how it was all placed was different. So it's just something to work through for next year. I'm sure that they'll work to better that for 2017. We went to a few panels. Brandy and I went to, along with our friend Allie, who hung out with us most of the weekend, went to the Disney sing-along on Friday night. It was on Friday night. We went to the Disney sing-along panel, where they basically play songs with and without lyrics, just depending on if they had the slideshows ready or not. And you got to sing different kinds of Disney songs with a bunch of people who all enjoy Disney as much as you. So of course we had a lot of fun. I did post some videos on my on Brandy and I's cosplay page, 2 Moons Cosplay on Facebook. We also went to on Sunday. We didn't go into any panels on Saturday. We spent most of our time in the dealer's room and in line for the and in line with our friend Allie for the cosplay contest. Since she wasn't VIP, we didn't want to leave her alone for a couple hours, because the line does start usually between 4:30 and 5 o'clock, even though the contest doesn't start until 7. And we didn't want her to stand by herself, so we spent a lot of time standing in line with her, and then we would move to the front of the line after so much time has passed. So Sunday, we went to the panel held by Keith Silverstein. He's a voice actor. He was one of our guests this year. We went to his The Art of Being Evil panel, which was fun. One of the other guests was holding How to Be Cute, like anime cutesy, in the room next door. And so we tried to act as evil as possible to show them what they're up against. So we did a lot of evil laughing, and we talked about what it's like to have to play so many different evil characters, because Keith Silverstein is known for playing a lot of the bad guys in several popular animes, including Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, and a couple others. Glitter Force. He plays most of the evil characters in the new Glitter Force that's come out recently. And then he also plays a lot of dad characters. The biggest one that he played that I recognized anyway, he plays Serena or Usagi, depending on how you choose to look at it. Her father in Sailor Moon, the original set. And I do believe he is playing in the new Sailor Moon Crystal. I think they're in the process of dubbing. I'm not quite sure. I do know that he's working on a new Sailor Moon project. Anyway, it was a lot of fun to sit and get to talk and interact with him, and listen to him do so many voices so quickly. He's able to fluctuate between the characters remarkably well. So it was fun to get to hear him speak in so many different character voices within just an hour. We also went to, on Saturday, being VIP, one of the perks that you receive at Anime Nebraskon is getting to have a luncheon with all of the the special guest speakers that they have in. So we got to actually sit at a table with a couple of the guests. One of them was a nice lady named Cassandra. I believe, don't quote me on it, I'm pretty sure she's in Full Metal Alchemist. I do know for a fact, and I feel terrible not knowing, but to be honest with you, Full Metal Alchemist is my husband's thing. I have watched it, I have read it. It's just not one of my top favorites. We did also get to sit with, at our table, Kirby Morrow. Kirby Morrow plays two characters from two of my absolute favorites animes and mangas. He is the voice of Goku from Dragon Ball Z, and he's the voice of Moroku from Inuyasha, both of which are two of my favorite characters from two of my favorite animes. So I was absolutely thrilled to get to sit with him and talk to him about his different experiences with voice acting. He was a lot of fun. He's very straight to the point, very honest man, and he's not afraid to go for whatever it is that he's shooting for. He would speak. Last year I had a deck of Dragon Ball Z playing cards. Not the Dragon Ball Z playing cards as in the Dragon Ball Z game playing cards, but like poker cards playing cards. And last year I got to meet the gentleman who voices Gohan, Teen Gohan. And he signed both of the playing cards that I had in the deck that was Gohan. So I asked the gentleman, Mr. Morrow, who plays Goku, if he would sign my cards for... if he would sign my Goku cards as well, which he did. And the moment he saw that I had Goku cards, he spoke to me the rest of the conversation in Goku's voice, which for me is a dream. Dragon Ball Z has been my favorite since it released in the United States when I was a child. I was maybe 5 or 6 years old when it first released, and it's been my favorite my entire life. So to hear someone speak to me for 5-10 minutes, just random conversation in Goku's voice, made my entire weekend. I could not have been more pleased. And another gentleman came up with an Inuyasha DVD that had Moroku on the front cover and requested that he signed the cover. And then for the next 10 to 15 minutes, he spoke solely to everybody in Moroku's voice because he was so excited that people knew some of the characters he had played. A little girl walked up to him, and asked him to sign her book. She was a VIP with her dad, and she had seen Barbie's The Nutcracker, and he plays the Nutcracker in I believe, the Nutcracker in it. And for the whole time that he would talk to her, he spoke to her in that character's voice. And you should have seen her. She was absolutely elated. She couldn't stop giggling. She just was enjoying herself thoroughly. And I was so glad to see that even children as young as her, she was maybe 8 to 10 years old, could enjoy themselves. And then I walked around the room after that and got signatures from everybody else. Keith Silverstein, Sonny Strait, he plays the voice of Krillin in Dragon Ball Z. So it's fun to listen to the two talk to each other in their voices. They would actually hold a conversation in those voices. There are also a couple other people. The voice actor for Edward and Winry from Full Metal Alchemist were there. And then I got to meet Alexis Tipton, and I'm sorry I only know some of the names. Some were more impressionable than others, mostly because of who they play. Alexis Tipton plays Gotenks and Trunks in Dragon Ball Z Xenoverse, which again, a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. And Trunks is my absolute favorite character, so I actually cosplayed a female version of him this weekend. Well, partially female. I ended up switching to pants, but anyway. And I was thrilled to meet her. She she was nice enough to speak to me in Trunks' voice. She was absolutely excited that I recognized who she was. And my best friend Brandy was wearing a brooch that I had hand painted. It's a little necklace cabochon, actually, not really a brooch, but anyway. That I had hand painted through my small business, Cherished Treasures and Gifts. You can find me on Facebook and Etsy. I hand painted a Nightmare Before Christmas cabochon for her Steampunk Sally cosplay. And Alexis Tipton actually pointed it out and asked where she had got it from. And of course I was standing right there, so Brandy told her she actually hand painted it for me. And Alexis Tipton herself asked for my business card to hopefully, if she chooses to, commission pieces from me, hand-painted jewelry pieces for her and her friends and family that she knows would appreciate things like that. So I was absolutely thrilled that someone, a voice actress of her caliber, was interested in my artwork. That doesn't happen often. And I also haven't been painting for a long time, so I wasn't entirely sure how my hand paintings will go over. But they went over great. She was absolutely enthralled with it. She spent most of the conversation discussing my hand painting and how she really wants to commission pieces off of me. Luckily, I was carrying business cards with me all weekend in case anybody asked me about any of the pieces that I had made for cosplay. So I was able to give her my business card, which she put in her purse and was excited to have. So fingers crossed that I actually do hear from her. I would love to be able to just discuss more with her, even if she doesn't order anything. I would just love to hear from her. It's just nice to be recognized even from people who are a little higher up on the social scale than you. Which was great to hear. It was an overall amazing weekend. The hotel staff had never seen anything like an anime convention before ever, and they were so patient with us. I'm sure they saw all kinds of things that they've never ever seen before, between furry costumes and giant people in armor and half-naked battle warriors and Disney princesses everywhere. That was a popular theme this year. And Pokemon, people were dressed up as human Pokemon. With the release of Pokemon Go, it became really popular this year. I'm sure the staff was dumbfounded. A lot of staff members did walk around with looks on their faces that they were like in awe and confused because they couldn't understand how everyday people could do such things like that. And Nebraskon is a rather rowdy group. While we're really polite usually, and we don't tend to get a lot of complaints from staff members that aren't Nebraskon staff. We do have a party block that runs until 2:00 in the morning, and on Sunday it runs for an extra hour because of daylight savings time. Because at 2:00, clock goes back an hour, so the party can still continue until the actual 2:00. And I'm sure that the cleaning staff and everything, I'm sure it gets really difficult for them to deal with a bunch of people. But I think that they did great. As far as I know, when we left, there wasn't a lot of complaints. We were actually invited back for next year, which was nice to hear because things can get kind of crazy. And when I say crazy, I mean crazy. When we were unloading to put everything in our car, our room was actually on the party block floor on the other side of the concourse. There was a room that housekeeping was cleaning, and there was probably a stack of about 25 to 30 towels, all stained and probably what was red alcohol or juice or something from a broom party. And I felt so bad because they had to clean that up after us. I'm hoping when the feedback forms come out to let them know that we need to be more respectful when it comes to messes and spills, and that we need to pick up after ourselves. Because things did get a little rowdy. It was also nerve-wracking to have the party block on the second floor, not because we were staying on the second floor. We actually didn't hear much of the partying going on, and we were up until, just hanging out in our room until party block time was over. So, and we really didn't hear a whole lot of it. So that wasn't an issue. The issue was that it's an open floor plan. So when you walk out of the hotel room, you can actually, each floor is basically a balcony, and you can see down onto the concourse. And my biggest fear was that someone that was drunk, because most room parties are alcohol based, you can go in and get free alcohol from them if you're over age. I was afraid that somebody would end up way too drunk and overserved and would fall over the banister. I mean, it's a relatively tall banister. I'm only 5'4", and the banister would come up to about my chest level. But that doesn't mean that somebody who's under the influence wouldn't have jumped it or fell over it because they were leaning too far over, or whatever the case was. But as far as I know, there wasn't a whole lot of medical problems. And definitely nobody fell over the banister, which was great. Safety was definitely key this year. So I really enjoyed Nebcon this year. I think that they need to work on their line process. They didn't spend a lot of time, in my opinion, on judging how busy panels were going to be. So a lot of the times it just ended up a crowded mess, which I never really had to stand in because we were VIP. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't hard for others that had to. Hallways were ridiculously crowded because of lines, and nobody knew where the lines were and how things worked. And I think next year will be better now that we know how to work the venue to their advantage. I'm not part of staff. I doubt I ever will be. It's just, and not because I don't think it's worth it. Volunteer. You get in free to Nebcon if you volunteer. Yes, you have to work, and you do get posted at like the doors for panels and help behind the scenes and things like that. But you do get in free. It's a great option when you're not sure if you want to spend the money on con tickets for the weekend. You do get the choice to volunteer. You work so many hours, and then you can go do other things. So you might miss some panels, and you might miss out on some stuff in the dealer's room, but I think that it's worth the time and the money to go to Nebcon, whether you volunteer or you buy your tickets. Pre-reg starts usually between, I want to say between March and May. Sometimes it varies. I believe last year I booked hotel in March and bought tickets in May, or this past year, and bought tickets in May. So look out for them. They do have a Facebook page, a Facebook group, which I'm also a part of. It's a great place to interact with con goers, especially after con, to get pictures of any of yourself and other cosplays that you're interested in. You'll notice in my previous video, my by day video, that I included a lot of pictures. It's a great place to just communicate with people like you, especially while you're getting ready, if you have questions, things like that. So if you're interested, please go on to Facebook and request to get into the Anime Nebraskon group. I think it's a great resource to have, especially starting out, because we're a great family, a great community. And I believe that we're all polite and very nice people, and it's a great place to get started. They also have Instagram, Twitter, all different kinds of social media accounts possible. They keep us very well up to date. Next year, the theme is To the Stars, which we're very excited about, mostly because we had, Brandy and I had already planned our dual cosplay as Helios and Sailor Rini for Sailor Mini Moon. She's going as the princess version of Chibi Moon next year, and I'm going as Helios. So we were very excited to hear that the theme To the Stars was next year, because we had kind of accidentally planned to do space-based cosplays next year. So we're hoping to see a lot of Gundam. A lot of the Gundam shows take place in space. I would love to see a little bit of Cowboy Bebop influence. That's one of my favorite space-based cosplays. And of course, Sailor Moon. I'm sure will be involved in some shape, form, or fashion. So now that NebCon is done and past, it's time to relax, because clearly my voice is kind of nuts. Time to relax, and I guarantee you by next week I will be starting on next year's cosplay. So please check out Brandy and I's cosplay page, Two Moons Cosplay. It's where we post all of our updates, things that happen during con, as well as how projects are going for the next convention, and our lineups and things that we've been working on. So please be sure to go to our page and give us a like. We do also answer any questions you have. If you have questions about our cosplays or props and how we got started or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to help you as we go through this lovely journey of cosplaying. And please look forward to different review videos. I might even be able to post some tutorials of how I did things that are cosplay based. So please be sure to check us out. And until next time, guys.